everyone, Allison here, also known as Lasan Faye, and I'm back today with another Zen Doodle with me video. This time for the Zen Art Challenges tangles on March 5th all the way through March 11th. So that being said, as a reminder, the Zen Art Challenge is hosted by Heather over with Mindful Creativity, and I'll leave a link to the Facebook group below. But let's go ahead and dive into the tangles. Okay, so the first tangle for this video is called That's Torn It, version 1. And it was made by Lizzie Main. And so the way we're going to start this is we're going to draw 2 straight parallel lines that might be slightly at an angle. So there's our first one. And there's the second one. And then we're going to connect them by doing some jagged lines. And then on one end, you could pick whichever end you want. You're going to come down, come in slightly, make another short set of parallel lines, connect those, and again, almost that way it looks like a scroll that's starting to come unwound. And then from the top, just kind of draw a jagged edge going off to the side, so that way it trails off into the distance. And once you have all of those in place, you can come in, do a little bit of shading, which you can do with some short lines along the sides of the original scroll. Just like that. Yeah, so that is it for this tangle. The way I would probably use this tangle is when making a banner or a header on a piece that I'm working on, or like if I wanted to layer a bunch of things together in an interesting way. But yeah, pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and move on to the next tangle. The second tangle that I have for you today is called Kime, and it's by Linda Farmer. And so to get started with this one, we're going to draw some flower petals. And the way I recommend doing that is you pick an initial starting point, follow it down slightly, and then come out and back down. And try to mirror that on the other side. And then once you have those, kind of do it from the bottom up. And as you can see, I've already kind of sort of made a mistake. I can deal with that though later. That's the nice thing about this. So after you've done your initial flower, you're going to want to trace around it to create a border. And make sure your border is not that far away. Okay, and once you have your border, you can create another round of leaves or petals. And with those, make another border. And we we can repeat this going out as far as we want. So I'm going to do just one more layer. Just like that. And then I'm going to do some coloring in. Voila! You can't even tell that I made the mistake anymore, and I get to do some extra embellishments using a white gel pen. But yeah, that actually looks really cool. And I'm happy I made that mistake, because otherwise I never would have gotten the opportunity to do that. So yeah, important lesson. Remember to make the most of your mistakes. You never know when they can turn into something that you'll really like. Okay, the next tangle that I have for you today is called Dex, and the source I have for it is from Constant Contact. And let's just go ahead and dive on in. So the way I recommend you start with this one is actually a little bit different from how they have it set up. And what I recommend you do is you make a grid first. So, for example, I'm going to use the diagonal here. Let's go 1, 2, 3, and also remember to go above the diagonal. 1, 2. And then also do a diagonal in the other direction. Okay, so from this diagonal, the reason why I recommend to do it this way is that way you can create more even spacing on the black squares. So after you have the diagonal, come in and make squares. And after you've outlined those squares, go ahead and fill them in. Alright, so now that we have our squares filled in, we can go ahead and create some other divisions between some of the other spaces. And so once you have that division of space, what you're going to want to do is take your pen and on one side of those divisions, go ahead and draw in lines. And I'm alternating mine, in part because I did sort of mess this up a little bit. I wanted to do these squares on every other cross versus doing it on every single one. But I'm just going to go with it. And to fake the dimension that I want, I'm using this alternating pattern. This certainly seems to be a week for embracing mistakes, but actually I'm happy with how this looks at the end of the day. I mean, I do leave the directions off on the side, and this is not the first time I've misread directions, and, you know, I just kind of went with it and still made something that looks nice at the end of the day. And ultimately, I hope that's the lesson that you take away from this, is that it doesn't necessarily have to be the exact thing that you were trying to do in order for it to look good. All right, our fourth tangle for today is called Echoism. And this is one that you could finish off in a variety of ways. I'm just going to do something that's easy for me in order to finish it off. But you could finish it off however you want. But the main aspect that you want to keep in mind is doing these loops. So you start at one end of your space, and you could either go up or down first. I'm going to go down first just because it's easier for me to draw it that way. And you come down, you make a little loop, come up, make a loop, down, loop, up, loop. And just like that, that creates all your loops. Now you could color this in however you want. You could outline some of the empty space in order to emphasize it. I'm just going to do little dots within each of the loops. Just keeping it nice and simple and elegant. And if I were to actually combine this into a larger project, I might actually fill in the empty space as well. But I'm really, really happy with how this looks, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Yeah, so nice, short, simple, sweet. Okay, the fifth tangle that I have for you today is called Enys, and it is a design by Zen Doodle. And I will leave a link to its original source down below. The way you want to get started with this one is by making some tear shapes around the border of the space that you're working with. So I like to go from the sharp end of the tear shape, form the tear, and then come back into the sharp end. And once you have made all of those, you're going to want to come slightly in from where the tear shapes are and draw a border. That roughly follows the shape of how the tears lie. Okay, and once we have that, we're going to fill in this space with a bunch of circles. And there's a multitude of ways to do this. You could do it entirely with small circles, I'm kind of gonna do it with space filling circles. So creating the largest circle I can, drawing it in, filling in the space around it, also with as large of circles as I can make. And just like that, we're all done with Enys. Really cute, nice way to fill in slightly larger space that I think could go very nicely. Yeah, maybe like a little bit of an underwater theme or a like ghost theme, because you could give the ones on the sides little eyes, and then they're little ghosts that are floating around. You know, just some thoughts. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Okay, the sixth tangle that I have for you today is Enys Libre, which the source for that is Zen Doodle. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But let's go ahead and get started. The way that they start this one is they pick a spot and draw a bit of a thick line. That's kind of like almost a rounded rectangle, almost. You could make it whatever shape you want, but the reason why it's a line I think will make more sense as we go through the design. And then from this point, or from this line, we're going to draw a little strand that ends here, and that's going to be important, that little end point. And we're going to draw a few other strands that come out and end at that same end point. And once we've done one, we can go ahead and do more. And we can have them come to different endpoints. The important thing, though, is that we want a group of them to come to the same endpoint before we move on to the next group. And let's go ahead and do a third endpoint just for funsies. Voila! Just like that, we have our tangle all completed. Another one that goes pretty quick. Kind of makes me think of what a ponytail looks like if you were to just like chop it off from the rest of the hair. Yeah, it's kind of pretty. I'll have to experiment with this one a bit more. But let's go ahead and move on to the last tangle for the day. All right, the final tangle that I have for you guys today is called Double Floors, and it was made by Margaret Brenier. Sorry for mispronouncing your name. So the way we get started with this one is we're gonna create a set of parallel double lines. So and there's one pair of double lines. And a couple other pairs. And to go with that, we're going to also do this in the horizontal. And with this one, it is okay that the crossings are showing because we're gonna color it in. Since I like to do all my coloring at once, I'm gonna skip the directions coloring step for a moment and add in the next step, and that is to add a diagonal line near the center of the crosses, like that. Once we have all of those in place, we can go ahead and fill it all in. And you want to fill in the triangles that were formed and the squares that are given by the intersections. So that's what one of them colored in looks like. You want to do that for all of them. And just like that, we're all done with this tangle. Lots of coloring today as well. This one is really cute. I would definitely use it in some of my larger works. Alright, so that's all the tangles that I have for this week. I really hope that one of the lessons you take away from this video is to accept your mistakes and learn how to incorporate them and make them work for you. Because that is a huge lesson from Zentangling in general that I've learned over the years. And I mean, this is part of the reason why I do it in pen, is so that way I get used to accepting my mistakes and figuring out how to build off of them. And at the end of the day, I'm really happy with how all of these look. I think they look really pretty, and some of them are more polished than others, certainly, but I love them. So I guess that's the important part, and I hope the tangles that you do, you love as well. So that being said, I am going to sign off for now. If you enjoyed this video, please check out my other Zen Doodle with me videos if you haven't already, and like or subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it just to know that you guys are in fact enjoying these. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye.